Okay, in this second video on concepts, I would like to focus on a particular operation of research design that I call conceptualization, but which can be equally called problematization. Um, Problematization carries a quite negative feeling with it, so I prefer the term of conceptualization. Basically, the operation consists to link a case with a particular concept. The fact is that there are several options. There are many possibilities of choices for doing that. Okay, you have a list of master thesis topics. If you browse through this list, and I'm here referring to the list of last year because the new one is not available yet at date of recording. But in this list of topics, you can see two kind of research starting points. In some instances, you will see that the topic is a concept. You will see proposals to study Europeanization or proposals to study trust, to study lobbying, co-production, professionalism, whatever. In this case, the starting point that is proposed to you is a concept, right? And what you have to do is to go from the concept, so from the abstract level to the empirical level to the case level. To do that, the operation is the case selection. We will focus on this operation later on. In this video, I want to focus on the other operation, the conceptualization. It occurs in a scenario where your starting point is a case. If this is the case, you need to search for a concept fitting your cases. Examples in the list includes research topics on ministerial cabinets, on refugee crisis, on Crimea annexation, or Turkey's failed coup. These are all empirical things, right? Phenomenon really happening. There are ministerial cabinets, there is a refugee crisis, etc. Conceptualization involves answering the question of which concept is my case an instance. It is an essentially subjective operation. It means that it is arbitrary, that it is quite uneasy to discipline, and that you won't find many guidelines to do that, right? The importance of this operation is double. If you link a case to a concept, the concept will come into your thesis with a whole bunch of literature, right? If you frame your cases as an instance of trust, you will have to study all the literature on trust, right? If you frame or conceptualize a given cooperation in defense as Europeanization, well, it means that you are expected to study all the literature related to Europeanization, or at least a significant part of it. So, depending on this choice, you will find yourself reading very different kind of texts. That's quite a concrete consequence. Another consequence is for the frame of comparison, right? We have seen in the previous video that a case is part of a population through the concept, right? In the case of Europeanization, well, cooperation in defense may be one, but there are many other cases of Europeanization. So you will find yourself making implicit or explicit comparisons with other cases of Europeanization. We will now go through an example to show you that there are many possibilities for every case of conceptualization. So I take here the case of terrorist attacks in Brussels in March 2016. The point I want to make is that this case can be conceptualized on very different ways, and that it has many consequences for what you will actually write in your thesis and study during the whole year. So a first evident option is to conceptualize this case as an instance of Islamic terrorism, right? In this case, you will find yourself making comparisons implicitly or explicitly with cases such as the New York attacks on 9/11 or the attacks in Madrid in 2004 or many other cases such as in London, etc. What you will probably study is the groups that are behind these attacks, how they did prepare, how they did operate, what consequences these attacks have had, etc. You could equally conceptualize this case as an instance of political terrorism in Europe. You notice here difference lies in the adjective and an additional term specifying a spatial boundary. There were not only cases of Islamic terrorism in Europe, but also terrorism from extreme left or extreme right movements, especially in the 80s and 90s. You had these attacks on the Bologna station, for instance. You also had this airplane attack in Lockerbie, Scotland, 88. If you were to compare the Brussels case with these two cases, probably it would shed another light on it. You will obviously devote some attention to the motivations behind that and to emphasize the differences between an Islamic motive or an extreme left motive, for instance. You will distinguish the modus operandi, also, etc. A third possibility is, and the media have done this quite often, is to conceptualize the Brussels case as an instance of failure of Belgian police and intelligence services, among many other historical cases. One of the most famous one is the Ezel Stadium case, where due to poor preparation of this football final, many people died in a collapsing stadium in 85. You may have known also of the pedophilia scandals that shocked the country so much in 96, emphasizing many weaknesses in the justice, police, and all the security system in Belgium. If you were to compare the terrorist case with these two other cases, well, you will probably focus on the organization of security forces, on their staffing, budgeting, on the processes, whether they collaborate with one another internationally or nationally, etc. Basically, you would tell quite a different story through this conceptualization than through a conceptualization as Islamic terrorism. You would study different pieces of literature and you would tell basically a different story leading to different conclusions. The possibilities are, of course, infinite. You could also conceptualize this Brussels terrorist case as an instance of a failure to integrate the minorities. Frame of comparison could include the fight for equal rights for women or for black people in the US, for instance, or even in South Africa. And you could find yourself studying affirmative action devices and all other legal and socio-economical tools to ensure the integration of minorities, their successes and failure. A final example of possible conceptualization is to say, okay, this case is an instance of people suffering from psychiatric disorders and making much damage to this society. Another case could be the one of Breivik in 2011, where this guy killed killed many people in Norway due to their left or leftward orientation. If you conceptualize this case as a psychiatric disorder, you could find yourself studying all society, and physicians diagnose and treat such kind of disorders. So I hope this example makes clear that starting from whatever case, you have many more options to study it. You can study it through many different frames, and that will have consequences for the other cases that are part of the population. The population, by the way, is the cases on which your generalization will apply. And also for the content of your thesis and the actual work in terms of literature review. Further reading on this, it's not easy as I mentioned, because if you search for terms such as conceptualization, problematization, you won't really come down to what I just told you. The closest term in the literature are the articles on framing. So there is quite a whole bunch of literature on framing. I propose you this article from Chong and Druckmann on framing theory in political science. So I give you an example taken from this article. When asked whether they would favor or oppose allowing an aid group to hold a political rally, 85% of respondents answered in favor if the question was prefaced with the suggestion, given the importance of free speech, whereas only 45% were in favor when the question was prefaced with the phrase, given the risk of violence. So a new framing means that perceptions matter and perception influence decision. That's basically the operation I propose you to make in your research design. Thank you for watching. No.